Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to number 52 of the Hardly Millennial podcast. Here we are, young, dumb, and full of
opinions.
I'm Matthew Lynn, guys, and today we have a special guest.
It is Justin Lunsford joining you all today. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! Everyone loves Justin so much, and we needed him today. Adam is in lands afar, visiting them. So, we brought Justin on, guys, and it's going to be pretty fun.
And I love all of you back, just so you know.
Oh, that's nice. You are well received, you know.
Well, I'm happy to be.
Not as quite as good as Vince. You're not as well received as he was.
He's a little bit more of a character than I am. He uses larger words on purpose to stir up a little, stir-up action.
A little stir-up action? I love it.
But I'm excited about today's topic. I feel like it's an underrated topic, and there's a lot more to it than most of us give it credit for.
It's a big part of, well, hopefully all of our lives. It really should be a part of your life.
I think it should. I think that's the going to be part of it today, why it is important. So without further ado...
What's the topic you chose today, Justin?
I chose to talk about hobbies.
Oh, that's fun.
Not necessarily my hobbies, although I'm sure we'll touch on that. More on why hobbies are important, what hobbies have to do with compatibility between people, and different reasons why you should have hobbies.
Well, I mean, let's start with the basic from the top. So, what are some of the constructive qualities that come with a person who has hobbies?
Passion about something.
Right.
Usually some kind of a confidence and expertise with something. Somebody who has a passion for something and knows a lot about it, even if they do tend to be more reserved person or not in their element, their hobby is a real foot in the door for one, feeling better about it, and two, just actually being more impressive and being able to shine.
Yeah, even if they don't necessarily want to teach their hobby to others, they can find more confidence in other situations because they know that they're really good at something.
Absolutely.
So you could apply that to anything else, really.
And I also feel like you're able to really utilize somebody's hobby in order to remedy a lack of confidence, per se. If we're all going to do something and one of your friends is just having like a whatever day, and you're going to a place and he really likes, recording equipment. Okay. He's really into recording equipment.
I know a guy like that, yeah.
So do I. And sometimes they're really outgoing. Sometimes they're not really outgoing, but letting someone know, hey, I'm going to go shopping for this. I think you'd be a great person to bring with you. That can really make them feel good about themselves, make them have a sense of purpose, right. And let them know that, in a sense, they matter. So that's just kind of one venue of it. But also, I think it's just beneficial for someone to have hobbies.
To have hobbies. Kind of, what is it? Idle hands are the devil's plaything.
Absolutely.
Just a little saying they used to say. But it's good to keep your mind busy with something and to get better at something every day. It makes you feel like you're achieving things.
Especially now with the internet, too. You're able to research what you're into. You're able, so even if you don't have money to purchase something, or you can always be looking into information, because really information's free and information's very impressive. A lot of the times someone's not looking to purchase something, they're looking for an answer. Right. And you just have an answer. So, I mean, I think we should probably just go into like some specific ones and then just kind of talk about it there, and then maybe, something good that a hobby's done for us in our lives.
Right. Well, I mean, I know like one thing that I think of right off the bat that you and I share and a lot of people share would be something like gardening.
Totally.
We're very into that. We like to grow and create life and help it to flourish, in different ways. And I think that it kind of goes a little bit beyond plants. It's more of taking care of something.
Oh, absolutely.
The feeling of like being needed by something almost.
But also getting a lot out of it too.
Yeah, you can take it from, the infant stages, almost like a kid, I guess, a plant that it needs you. It will probably die in this environment you put it in if it wasn't for you helping it.
Right.
And then you can watch it grow into something that no longer really needs you. It can now go on its own. And on top of that, it will provide you with, say, fruit or vegetables or something.
Happiness.
Or happiness
beauty.
that can give to you. So it's kind of like an investment in your future sanity and health.
Yeah, I was never into gardening. It takes a lot of patience that I do not have. It wasn't until I really decided it was time to get my backyard up and running to add some good value to my house. Because gardening, one of the reasons I love gardening is it can truly be done $20 at a time. It can be done $100 at a time. And it can be done $1,000 at a time.
Correct. You can go all out or little by little.
Absolutely. So with someone with no patience, I don't have a choice. I don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to just uproot and do my entire garden. So I've been doing things anywhere between $20 and $200 at a time.
Right, which is an average person.
It makes me very happy. It's taught me a lot of patience. I'm just learning a valuable skill, and I feel like it has given us a little bit more to talk about.
Yeah, well, that's another cool thing I was actually going to say about just about any hobby is that inevitably by practicing your hobby, you're going to come across other people in life who are also into it.
Absolutely.
And I know there's been instances where coffee has done this for me. I consider coffee kind of a hobby of mine, where a person I would never talk to normally or approaches me, or I become in some kind of conversation with them because of the situation, because of the hobby. So you can make a lot of friends. You can make relationships with people, intimate or not, that you wouldn't have otherwise made. Sports are a big thing like that.
Huge.
You end up on a team with a bunch of guys or a bunch of girls who maybe you would have never come across otherwise, but through trying to achieve this goal together, you guys end up being friends. So there's so many levels of healthiness that comes along with being occupied by something productive.
Absolutely. And you really become a lot more well-versed if you have hobbies that you're into. You don't always get into 10 at the same time.
Right.
At one point, you're really into something, and then that takes a little bit of a back burner. Say you're really into gardening, but then football season comes around, and you're way more into that. You have this larger group of friends that you're able to really communicate with and hang out with and have a common interest with.
Yeah.
And I find those things to be, because they're usually not your job.
Usually
your hobby,
not. That's what makes it the hobby part.
Exactly. So
it's fun.
It gets you life. It's a healthy balance. It gets you outside of your regular routine. It's something to look forward to, and it's something to bond with other people over. One of mine, other than gardening, a big one for mine is just animals. Researching animals,
True.
Keeping animals, just husbandry and caring for animals. And I know he comes up in every time I'm on a podcast, but that's how life works.
He loves it, guys.
Okay.
You are who you are, right?
But my boyfriend and I met because we were both really into animals. And you would think a lot of people say, I love animals. Who doesn't love animals?
Right.
But I really
love caring for animals,
right,
particularly.
and things that are a little bit more exotic and.
Yeah, it's not just that you love to pet them and then love them and then walk away. You like to actually build the environment they live in. You like to fill it and give them a good life.
And even if something I can't keep as a pet, I really like to just enjoy learning about its behavior in the wild and how it's doing in the wild and everything. And you don't find a lot of people like that. So when you're true to yourself and you really just get into studying or becoming an enthusiast of any kind, and you meet someone else who shares that with you, it's really something special. And they could be completely different than you, but your love for something that's similar, really brings you together. And it sounds cheesy, but dial it back a little bit. Talk about, say, anime, right?
Right.
People who love anime, they truly, truly love it.
Oh, yeah.
They love
it's
it.
the best entertainment.
It's part of them. Mm-hmm. It's emotional. It's exciting.
It's like a culture.
It's thrilling.
It's not just a show. It's a culture.
It's a community. Yeah. It's artistic. Now, I'm not into it at
I'm
all.
not super into it either. As I'm getting older, I kind of see a little more in it.
I see the value in it. It just does not interest me at all.
Right.
But I really admire the passion that people have for it. I think that's really cool because, I mean, you're in or you're out, really, okay? People who love it.
The stories are just so deep. It's hard to be like a casual participant.
Right. And there's so much fantasy involved with it, but you're so willing to take it seriously because it's part of this like almost alternative art form.
Let me ask you along those lines, and maybe along the animal lines with you too.
Uh-huh.
What to you distinguishes a hobby from a passion? Is hobby just a stepping stone along the way to a passion?
No, I think passion comes first. So at first it starts as an interest.
Right.
Okay.
This would be cool. You see someone doing it.
So interest is when you're kind of exploring it or it looks, I mean, interesting. Right. And then it gets into more of a passion. I think you start researching it. You know, a passion does not require anything really tactile, in my opinion. You know, once you're reading about it a lot, you know, for example, travel. You can't really say that your hobby is travel if you haven't traveled. Okay?
Oh, so the passion would be like the feeling behind it, and hobby is the activity of going out and doing it.
Right. So once you are really actively and regularly researching something, I think it becomes a passion. You know, and that's right before something becomes a hobby. But once you're really passionate about something, I'd consider that a hobby. You know?
It would become your hobby.
Because at that point, really, it's just monetary issues there. And you can't say, it's not like music can't be your hobby if you don't own a piano. You know?
Well, I was just going to say, you can be passionate about the guitar and love to watch videos and wish you could play, but you can't really say playing the guitar is my hobby if you don't own a guitar.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Or if
but
you don't
it's your
have a
passion.
skill.
You love doing it. You're interested in everything about it. Right.
You're
you
part
don't
of a
actively
club,
do it.
you're an enthusiast of some kind.
Right.
But if you're an enthusiast, I'm going to give you hobby points.
For sure. I mean, we're splitting hairs almost at this point.
So I just think that when you're part of like a community like that, you're surrounded by people like you, it just brings up more confidence, you know, the more proficiency you have in something like that. Like ever been to a Renaissance fair?
Yes, I happen to think they're very fun. I enjoy that kind of thing.
I think they're bizarre.
Really?
I think they are absolutely bizarre. But when you
it's
go
a
and you see the people talking in the ye old language, okay, or however you call that, Middle English or whatever, okay, they're into it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're on one when they're there.
They dress up to as historical as possible. And, oh, fuck yeah. They'll even drink out of cups that are like era worthy.
And they don't break character. And if you laugh at them, they look at you confused. They don't get offended. They just look at you like, oh, this civilian, this peasant has no idea what's going on here. And I'm the king here. And I think that those people deserve a time to be king. And I think that, you know, the Renaissance Fair comes around, one season a year, and there's a few of them throughout.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. So. This is their time to, like, reign supreme. This
is when they come
okay?
out. Do you think in general it would take... I mean, I'm sure there's both ends of this spectrum and everyone in between, okay? But in general, do you think for a person to spend the energy to go out and make themselves look historically accurate and then speak in the tongue and play the character, do you think that generally is a more intelligent person doing that? Like that it would take more intellect to be able to get into it to that level?
That is the beauty of it. Absolutely not.
No, you think it's just it's available to anyone.
It's passion. That's all you need is passion. The reason to want to do a research and then turn it into something that's a hobby. And that's what would bring a brainiac who looked at this from a scholarly level.
Right.
Okay. Or just some, you know,
Average Joe
who just likes the clothes and thinks that the speaking sound, the talk is really cool. You know, the accent's really cool.
I was just thinking, like, the act of putting yourself on the line like that. Like, because obviously as a human being who lives in the society everyone else does, you understand to some extent that what you're doing is different and kind of odd compared to what everyone else is doing. But yet, the confidence that comes along, I guess sometimes I just attribute confidence to intelligence,
Well, no, confidence to expertise,
expertise.
not intelligence. I would say expertise.
Okay.
The more
Okay.
hipster you can kind of become,
Yeah.
the more cred you kind of get, the more confidence you really get. There's plenty of kids out there who they don't have hobbies, and just being different or having like a counterculture of some kind is kind of their hobby. And you'll see these, little geeky kids with no confidence put black lipstick on, eyeliner, lots of silver jewelry, some fangs, and now they feel like they're the king.
Right.
And then they meet other people from other walks of life who are that way, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter if you were really smart in school and I was really dumb, or we are
all
brought
meet
together by
here.
something mutual that we
See, that's
all
the beauty
equally
of it,
like.
man.
Absolutely.
And there's something, no matter what your flavor is in life, there's a group somewhere doing something that you're interested in.
right.
Everybody is born just with interests, don't you think?
Well, with the affinity to have
To have interests,
yeah.
right? You obviously develop the different ones throughout life.
Right.
Do you think that it's correct to call something like playing video games a hobby?
100%. I'm glad you brought that one up.
Even
That has to
though-
come up.
So I feel like the word hobby
Uh-huh.
has kind of like a positive
Uh-huh.
connotation to it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In that you're doing something constructive. Not necessarily that's the actual definition, but it's kind of like perceived that a hobby is something constructive.
Right.
And I feel like something like video game is oftentimes perceived as not harmful, but not necessarily constructive. Kind of a time waster.
Okay. That's like, you could say the same thing for alcohol.
Okay.
Okay. You have vodka connoisseurs,
Yes.
then you have alcoholics. So I think that's with any addictive behavior, and that is where you kind of get into something that's a little bit more tricky.
Okay.
So the thing with video games is the amount, it's an instant gratification, and you can get it over and over and over.
Right.
So if you are able to be disciplined and have balance in your life, you're already, blessed with that ability. So say, all right, enough of this. It's now, consciously time to do something else because that's the healthy thing to do. Then I don't think video games are any issue for you. But
that would be a hobby at that point.
Right.
If you have control over how much you're able to do it,
absolutely,
it can be considered a hobby.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But at some point, it really just becomes a full-blown lifestyle that gets that interferes with real life.
So can unhealthy acts be hobbies?
Oh, absolutely.
Can your hobby
you can make
be-
anything unhealthy.
In theory, would you be able to say, like, my hobby is smoking cigarettes? If you were truly able to choose to not smoke a cigarette for any amount of time that you
Well,
wanted.
sure. You could be a tobacco enthusiast, no problem, or a cigarette enthusiast and know the different tastes and the different that. But
Interesting. There's a fine line there.
absolutely, and you could also meet somebody else that's that way, and I'm sure that there are communities that are that way. Now, I wouldn't date you,
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't be caught around someone that way because instantaneously I think that you smell. Okay, I think that if you're truly into it that much, I'm not going to ever have that much in common with you.
Right.
But, if you find yourself in a tobacco enthusiast community or a cigarette enthusiast community, and you're truly happy that way, and you have some way to keep it under control and everything like that, I guess more power to you. I've heard of people living a long time being able to smoke, so if it's not going to turn into an addiction. But, realistically, people who smoke
does.
cigarettes,
Yes.
who don't, look forward to every single cigarette, not as an obligation, but as an enrichment on their life, chances are they're addicted and it's no longer a hobby. It's a burden.
Right.
And I suppose anything
That's
could turn into that.
Fine. Yeah, so without getting too much into, the podcast isn't really about like addiction today.
But hobbies
per
can
se,
be
but
addicting, so
It's
we can go
the
there.
self-control part. That's what the line in the sand is.
Well,
Once you've
yeah.
lost the control over it, now it's an addiction.
So if you are gardening, what would you say is the fine line?
There would be obsessiveness.
I would think
being
it's
able
spending.
to pull away. That would be obsessiveness. Yeah. If you're overspending for your lifestyle just to put plants in your yard, now you're affecting your lifestyle. And I would say you don't have control over that at that point.
Right.
Because a person in control would choose to do the responsible decision.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Why would you not eat for 2 days when instead of getting a plant? Like,
so really that can go anywhere. I most definitely can take, can rear its head in keeping animals.
it can't, and there's just so much of a fine line, because if you can keep up with having 30 animals, then people will say that's your passion. He's just very passionate, but it's not affecting his life. As it's the second that it starts to affect your life in a judgmental way,
Right.
then people will say it's becoming a problem.
Absolutely.
But as long as it's not a problem, most people really don't give a shit how far you take something. You can take it all the way.
And really,
right?
that's going to make you even more compatible with somebody, or even less accountable with the people.
Compatible.
Less compatible with the
Right.
people that you just aren't compatible with. I mean, if you love cats, if cats are your thing, and you got to the place where you have a beautiful home with 13 cats in it, and
Right.
somehow magically it doesn't smell. Someone's going to walk in and say, "No, thank you, freak ass," right?
Right.
And someone else is going to walk in and say, "Oh my God, I found him. I can't believe he's here. This is the one I've been looking for."
It's almost like if you are gonna go further than the average bear does in something, you might as well just go really far in it.
Right.
Either go the average amount or take it all the way, baby. Because after a certain point, there's diminishing returns. Like, let's say the average amount would be what, like 2 cats? Maybe 3 is starting to become a lot.
3
of
is
cats.
a lot of
3 is a lot of
cats.
cats. So 1 to 2 would be an average amount of cats. Okay, so now if you get 3 or 4 cats, you've now crossed into the realm of weird to most people.
Right.
So why not
To
at
me.
that point have 8 cats if you're able to? After you've gone past the average amount, there is no other barrier. You could just keep going.
I don't care if you have 15 and your home is beautifully kept and all that. To me, you are still the person with 5 to 15 cats, no matter what. So you've now put yourself in quite the niche market. But hey, man,
Right.
live your best life.
Well, or they're
live
like
your life.
they're like you were a few years ago when at one point you had 15 or 20 different reptiles. In what would most people consider a small space. But the way you had it set up and the amount of time and energy you put into the situation, it worked out. You were able to live amongst these 15 or 20 reptiles.
Oh yeah, and it was a very small
you
apartment.
also weren't trying to date or create any real relationships unless something was so extravagant that it popped out. So unless someone came around and was like, I love everything about having all 15 of these, you weren't trying to attract just the average Joe.
Well, let me say that I had a lot, 20 plus, in a small apartment.
Right.
But I did a really good job of keeping everything together, and quite honestly, it was a lot easier than the handful of animals that I have now, just because of the kind of animals that they were. But I never kept an animal to be impressive or to be dateable or compatible with someone. I always kept them because they brought me a tremendous amount of joy. I had a lot of passion.
Right. But you never minded having an absurd number of them, to where most people would walk in and go, that's too many reptiles.
Exactly.
That didn't bother you.
Well, to me, it's not absurd if your house is clean and you don't look overrun.
Right. They would have to be like very well kept decorational pieces almost.
And they
like
were.
very loved, well kept decoration
Absolutely.
pieces.
They
is what they would have to
absolutely
be.
word. Sorry, I feel the need to defend myself with
No,
the word
and-
absurd.
Sorry, I guess, and absurd does have kind of a weird texture to it. No hard feelings though. I think you're great. I live with you.
Thank you. I think I'm great too.
You're supposed to. Okay, never mind. So yeah, it's as long as I guess it doesn't take over your life. But what if it's a healthy hobby? What if
Right.
it's something like exercising?
Which is an amazing hobby.
What if it takes over your life though? Now it's not necessarily quote unquote a bad thing if really good diet or exercising takes over your life. That's actually kind of good for you.
It's an amazing thing for you. I would love for it to take over my life.
But you could still say that a person would be addicted to it. So
Oh, yeah.
it's okay to be addicted to healthy things, though. That's obviously not a problem,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's okay to be, well, addiction means it surpasses a desire and it goes into a need, right?
So can you say that you can become addicted to exercising?
You absolutely can.
You can.
Yes. There's
You
a
can crave
condition
it.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can feel uncomfortable if you're not doing it. And you could overwork yourself to the point where even though you know that you're having pain, psychologically, you have to go and you have to do it or else, and that's its own issue.
So now I would say that you've lost control over that situation.
Right.
And it's affecting your life.
Right.
But it's still not unhealthy.
Well, it can become unhealthy. I mean, at some point, if you're wearing down your joints, if you're
True.
not getting proper sleep, if you're
What if eating keto became an addiction? What if a person became just obsessed with eating keto and their body just got better and better shape and health? I mean, I'm just trying to be extreme here to find an example
that's a
that
pretty
wouldn't work.
crazy what if, because are we talking about someone who likes to exercise and do keto? Are we
Well,
talking
and
about a
here's the
lazy
thing
person who
is,
does keto?
I don't know that it's biologically possible to become addicted to something like keto because there's not really any endorphins involved. You have to get that pleasure sensor out of something to become addicted to it.
Well,
Even exercising,
there are
it lets off
endorphins involved in eating every time
but
you
not
eat.
keto.
Yeah,
not
there
that
is.
shit. That
Absolutely.
stuff. There's no pleasure in it whatsoever.
Well, to you,
zero.
to
The only pleasure is the simple life sustaining that you are doing when you're eating it.
for you, to some people, telling them that they can lose weight eating bacon, eggs, avocado, sour cream, and cheese
You can.
every single day.
You have to fast in between though, otherwise you'll get fatter. But yeah, you can.
Well, you don't have to fast. You do not have to fast. You just have to be strict on the diet. You cannot cheat.
You have to at least portion control it. You can't just have unlimited
No
amounts
matter
of
what
things.
diet you're on, you have to portion control. Absolutely. But,
Actually, with keto, you really don't have to consciously portion control because your body will do it for you.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be so sick of the food, you won't want to eat it anymore.
absolutely.
You'll just be full.
Oh, so there's an example, right? So for me, dieting and eating habits are a passion for me, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily a hobby. I like to research them. I like to know how they affect the body. I like to be able to speak on it. I like to be well informed on how these things are going to affect me.
Right.
And that makes me excited. That makes me happy.
But I wouldn't say it's an active hobby
It's
that
not.
you partake in.
Because I hate it.
You
I
don't,
do
you
it.
don't seek out a community of people to keep you going in it. You don't. But it is a passion in that you'll spend free time choosing to learn about it.
Right.
You
And
know what I mean?
choosing to, try recipes and this and whatever and give it a go for a few months. And it always works. So I can't say that keto is a hobby for me, but I can definitely say that it can become a hobby for somebody else. They get into just being fat adjusted, measuring their urine, with ketone strips.
Absolutely.
They get into really fun recipes and post them online that they do. So it's most definitely a hobby. It actually ties in a lot of things. It ties in self-discipline. It ties in exercise. It ties in cooking. Just a general creativity. And there is a community. And there is definitely
absolutely.
yeah.
If you want to be part of it, there is.
But-
I mean, there's a community for almost anything.
At some point, every hobby can be overdone, right? It's not your career. Lucky you if you can make your hobby a career. But
Yeah, you'll never work again, right? That's what they say.
exactly. But there is a serious issue with, I hate to pick on these people. It's not the people I'm picking on. It's just the trend that I'm seeing right now in the past 10 to 15 years is this video game thing. I really want to touch back on it.
Sure.
Because just like food, okay, every time you eat, you release endorphins into your body. Every time you masturbate, another hobby for some people,
Right.
you release endorphins, into your body. And the same thing can be done when you discover a new species of, tortoise that you're allowed to
that's
have.
Pleasurable.
Absolutely.
It has that going on. It's
So
a chemical reaction.
when life is hard, meeting people can be hard. Instead of trying to face your fear and go out and become more of a confident person, when you let the victories in a video game, make you feel good, and you're just constantly chasing this dragon, beating your high score, okay,
Right.
you become dependent on this in order to be happy, and then everything does start to take a back seat. And just me personally, and I'm very confident that everybody out there knows somebody who is addicted to video games, but I've seen it
I agree.
truly end relationships, like make them to where it's like everything's great, but I can't with the video games. I've seen it happen several times now.
Right.
Okay, both here in Arizona where I live now and in California where I've lived before.
I've heard of. I think there's a lot of cases like that.
I was part of a fraternity in college, and in a fraternity, you really want to make sure that you bring people in of all different backgrounds. You want to make sure that you call it glitter and glue. Your athletes and your really handsome guys, right, that are going to draw people in. Right. And then you want to have your kids that are, maybe a little bit less confident, but they're really good in school, to bring up the GPA. You want to have somebody who's an asset everywhere.
I thought they were all full of people who are exactly the same. That's interesting. I've never been a part of any of that culture.
It could be, but it doesn't last very long. Your legacy doesn't last long as a fraternity if you don't have diversity. It doesn't work like that.
Interesting.
So
it holds true to a lot of things in life.
Yeah. So, but too many times, you'll see a party start and there's alcohol, and then they'll put, hate to call it out, but we'll just say a Super Smash Brothers or something like that, a game that a lot of people can play together.
Yeah, a multiplayer game.
Okay, and it draws a little mini crowd in, and then it's a whole bunch of people staring at a screen, drinking alcohol, not being social at all.
Yeah.
And that's when a hobby can go kind of south, in my opinion. You're getting this endorphin, and it's hard to say, all right, it's best for me now to put myself in uncomfortable situations instead of doing this and talking to people who are also at this party when you have this herd of people who
know exactly what to do. You've practiced that situation many times.
And you can be successful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then what does that make you want to do? Develop that skill.
Now, what if, back in the day, before video games, right? Same scenario, you're at a party, you're drinking with some friends, and someone brings out a guitar, an acoustic guitar. And people go around the person with the guitar and they jam out for a little bit and they make music.
Absolutely.
Very similar scenario, right? Couldn't you equate one to the other?
Well, kind of. With music, okay, I don't think you're getting the same amount of endorphin immediately.
Right, that's true.
I think it's a slow buildup. It starts out slightly uncomfortable. You might have two people really feeling it and other people looking around like, do I really want to do this right now? Before you know it, you've brought a lot of people together. You're looking at each other in the eye. It's purely human interaction.
And you're all experiencing the music together.
And you're
not
appreciating
fixated on a screen.
Exactly. You're appreciating somebody else's talent as well, right? So someone's playing the guitar.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're creating something.
And you're all creating something together. And what's cool about it too is it doesn't necessarily need to be an interest. I'm a music enthusiast for sure.
Oh, and that's kind of why I picked that example. Yeah.
So you don't have to be an expert to appreciate it. You don't have to be an expert to perform it. The only expert really that you need is a person on the guitar. And that can engage a lot of different people. Music, in my opinion, music in general, I would not call a hobby, just like I wouldn't call water a hobby or drinking something or eating something a hobby.
I think that's only that has a lot to do that it's one of your personal passions that you're very, very passionate about. So for you,
That's
music
true.
is life. But there is something about music and human beings in general. I'd never met anyone in my life who hates all music.
Right.
There's always some kind of music that a person relates to and it makes you feel emotions. It's a natural thing almost.
We all have ears.
Yes.
Okay, well, most of us have functional ears. Not everybody does, unfortunately.
Sure.
But we all
But
have
an
ears,
optimal human being would have ears.
and we all have a pineal gland that
Some bigger than others.
that responds to frequency.
Right,
so to me,
it's in your brain, guys.
yeah,
Get
they
your
call it
minds out
the
of the
third
clutter.
eye.
Yeah. Or the third brain. No, just kidding. We're going off
eye.
course here.
So I don't look at music as much of a hobby as I do with how much of your music requirement are you fulfilling today. But I guess that's just
Right.
my thing.
I can kind of see how the argument can be made with music. That it's almost like a part of life.
Now, if you collect tubas, okay, that's a little different. You collect tubas. You're into music, obviously, but you collect tubas.
But I would say specifically now tubas are your hobby.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. So,
I agree.
Like, music is not my hobby, but classical voice would be my hobby. Musical theater might be a hobby.
Right, a different classification within that field. So the other thing I'm thinking too is relating the video games to music is that video games, when you turn them on, that's all you're going to get. You get the immediate amount of satisfaction right away, right? Instantly. With the music, I mean, as the people start to form around the person playing the music, what does that lead to? It usually leads to dancing, right? Listening to music tends to lead to dancing.
It can,
So
or
now
just
you
movement.
have movement. Now you have actual like actions being made together, and you're interacting with the people. So I think it would be totally wrong, actually, to relate music to video games.
Now, I have to give throw a bone to the video game people. There's definitely something to be said about trying something over and over and over until you finally beat it. I think that's really cool. I don't think that video games are inherently unhealthy. I just think that they run the risk of becoming very quickly addicting, which is
some
unhealthy.
games can teach you a lot about history, man. Like there are, like you said, there are good elements to video games for sure.
Absolutely. And I've never met anyone who loves to play video games that I thought was a horrible person. And I mean, you've had Kyle on several times.
I fucking love Kyle.
Kyle's awesome. And Kyle loves video games. And his wife loves video games.
So it's not an issue.
But they're not like two people who sit and just play video games. They have a child that's really involved with their whole process. Someone always has the baby with them. When you go and visit them at their house, they're very gracious, kind guests, right? So it's not like they never learned how to properly interact with people and whatever. They are homeowners now. Congratulations, you guys.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah, they're living the life, and one of their big interests is video games.
But they keep it to an interest.
Right.
Not a lifestyle.
Vince loves video games, and
Vince is
I've
great
never once had a conversation with Vince about video games before.
Really?
Never, because I don't do video games.
Funny. He literally he tests them for a living. His job is video games.
Right. And I've never once talked to him about it. So to me, he is somebody who can have a very healthy relationship with video games, even to the point where they're his job, but it's not unhealthy.
Right.
It's not to the point where it's really kind of taking over. Sorry, I just had to really clear some things in the name of video games.
And please do, because the internet enjoys their video games.
Oh, I
tell you
know.
what.
Trust me, I had no idea that there were people on the internet, on YouTube, because I'm a huge YouTube fan. I'm on there literally hours a day.
Me too.
That just allow you to watch them play video games. And you guys listening, I know I'm behind. I totally get it. I'm very aware of how many years I'm behind on not knowing this, okay?
Yeah.
But, yeah. So clearly there's a thing for it, and these people are in kind of making video games their career in their own way.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's genius. I think that it's really entrepreneurial.
I think you nailed it.
Okay, cool.
I think you nailed it.
I would have never thought of that because I would have never watched something like that.
You know what's funny is I'm a person who I would say my main form of entertainment that I take in throughout the day is Let's Plays.
That's what it's called?
It's Let's Play. Yeah. So, well, I mean, just like you were talking about with music, you knew a lot of different terms because you're very passionate about it. there's different terms with video game watching as well. There's let's plays, there's walkthroughs, there's speed runs, but the most common, what you're talking about watching a guy is it's called let's play.
Okay.
So I love those. I like to watch people play strategy games, because I find that there's too much pressure actually playing the game. I don't like the responsibility, but I do like how beautiful it looks, obviously, and seeing the stories and stuff within the game. So that's my main form of entertainment, actually.
More power to ya.
Yeah, but I would never sit and choose to watch 4 hours of Broadway plays that were performed by professionals. Like, I would say more power to you there.
I could. Oh wow, yeah. That Broadway musicals, I would definitely say, are a huge interest of mine because it's very uniquely American. We don't have a lot of art forms that are truly, truly American.
Is that actually? It's a thing that we didn't get it from Europe. We started it.
No, so it all started with the opera, which I love opera. I'm an opera singer myself.
Mm-hmm. That came from Europe, though, right? Opera.
Yes.
That came from like Italy and France and all that.
The first operas.
It's got to be Italian.
Well, they were oratorio and they were in Latin.
Okay.
So
yep, Italy.
Yeah, I would say Italy. I'm trying to think of because Baroque opera was in Spanish, somewhere in English too, actually. That we're talking about late 1600s. So all languages at this point were producing some kind of music, but we didn't have we had a Great Awakening, right? The Renaissance, and that's when everything kind of restarted. So yeah, I would say Italian and German.
So we took that art form and molded it into something different.
Well, the Germans created something called the operetta, which was a really light opera with funny characters and everything like that. But we created the first play with songs.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's Americans, huh?
The first one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was called Showboat. And ever since then, it's just really been truly, truly American.
That's kind of cool. I had no idea.
Vaudeville started in America, early 1900s. So like variety shows.
Okay.
And then we kind of merged that with the concept of opera. But we had slavery in the United States. So a lot of jazz music came from traditional slave songs that then turned into ragtime, so that it just really evolved into a truly American art form. So I think that is super cool. Sorry, I digress.
That is super cool. No, I had no idea that we thought of like the musical in sense.
And then, shout out to Kyle, actually, because Kyle, I heard that you're into musicals now, and I would love to do a podcast with you sometime. If you're hearing this, let me know if you're down. I think we're into slightly different musicals, but I think it'd make for a really cool podcast. So, I mean, I'm inviting myself to do a podcast without either you or Adam. I'm so sorry.
We've used all our Kyle shout-outs for the day now. You can't build his ego up too much.
Kyle, otherwise, I think I just miss you, man.
He'll start to think that this podcast is just about him.
Well, maybe today it should be called This One's for Kyle.
This one? We waited till 52. We gave 52. 43 minutes into episode 52, we gave it to Kyle.
Well,
I love it.
We digress. Everyone's important. You all matter. All of you guys matter.
So let's go back. Let's for the last little part here of our podcast. Let's go back to the original hobby thing.
Okay.
And there was something I wanted to talk about because I was real fascinated about relationships and hobbies in particularly like marriage relationships or like boyfriend girlfriend relationships, like intimate ones. Okay. So. Have you ever had an instance, or do you think it's more common for separate hobbies to find each other, kind of like the opposites attract deal, and then get each other into the respective hobbies? Or do you think it's more common that you find someone that's interested in the same things? Like that's where law of attraction doesn't work.
Well, I think it depends on how healthy of a couple you are. I think that really good, long-lasting relationships start with a good common interest.
Right.
There obviously
Something.
needs to be some kind of physical attraction there.
Right.
But a common interest, a passion for something other than your job, I think is a very healthy beginning for two people. But I definitely think that it's good to exchange hobbies, introduce them to something that you're super passionate about. You don't have to like it, but you do need to appreciate it in some way.
You have to at least be able to appreciate it in some way and
Yeah.
give them their moment of it when they need that.
Let them geek out.
Right. In whatever
Absolutely.
it is.
Find it adorable. I mean, really, you don't have a choice, right? You can't just dislike
you wanna be with that
somebody.
person.
Exactly. Dislike somebody so much for something that they love so much.
So do you think, this is the big question I really want to ask here, is do you think in most relationships that the common hobby that becomes being shared between the two, they lose like going out and doing things and that hobby just becomes sex? Like sex is the common hobby that they meet up for and then they go out and do their own thing after that?
Are you saying if they don't have a common hobby?
Right. Like do you because
For example,
in
two
most
people who are
relationships,
into what?
that's what I'm saying is I think in most relationships people don't have common hobbies.
Oh,
And that they
right.
use sex as that common hobby.
Well, absolutely. Most relationships are not healthy.
Right.
So most relationships are, if you're really just trying to find, someone to put a peg in a hole, both, I guess, literally and, metaphorically, then anyone's going to do. All you have to do is be attracted to it. And I feel like when you're, there is that classic story of you walk by and you're just blown away by the way that somebody looks. But
if it ends there,
if sex is your hobby, and then that's what maybe both people were looking for in the situation, it's not going to last.
right.
Unless you're just two true sex enthusiasts who really love the discipline of it, the variety, the this, the that.
Yeah, but how often do you find that?
Right.
That would be,
But that's how...
I'm sure it's out there, but
That's how that would be compatible. That's the only way I can think of that's compatible.
I just think that's probably a key indicator. Like if you're in a relationship, coming from someone who's single, by the way, take it with a grain of salt. But if you find yourself that you're in a relationship and you're saying, what common hobbies do I have with this person? And the only thing you can think of is sex, then to me, that's kind of a red flag. You should work on that or take a minute to think about what that really means, that you can't connect with this person on any other level other than just being intimate with them. Like even you and your boyfriend, you guys connected originally. You're both very into animals.
Yes.
He actually goes to real school for animals.
Right.
And so you guys have that on top of intimacy. There's always
Right.
something you can go into the real world and participate together in.
I think that the reason we have such a lovely, intimate life is because it was based on things that we found in each other that we thought were very rare. I don't meet people that are as into animals and wildlife and pets as I am often, very seldomly. It blows my mind. I think it's absolutely incredible. And when I meet somebody else that truly I trust, that they really do like those things as much as I do, so I can openly geek out to you,
Right.
then, I mean, we are going to have some really fun, intimate times too, because I finally found you,
See, and that's it. That must be the feeling anyone has. People like Kyle and his wife, or people, they must have the same feelings of, man, I found the person. I can trust you. You're into it too. Let's just fucking geek out.
Yeah, or it's,
Let's have
I
that.
can't imagine. It's like, wow, I found someone that loves video games or loves whatever as much as I do, and I think they're super hot.
I think they're hot. Exactly. That's like the golden ticket. So there, I think if people were just a little bit more aware, more self-aware of that,
Oh, absolutely.
it would be a healthier relationship.
This, I feel like it goes back to that. I hate to say this cliche, but if you cannot
ahead.
love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else? Shout out to RuPaul, because
Is that who said that?
she says, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
Amen, girl. Amen.
Exactly. Every time she ends her show that way. And you should search for yourself first. You should truly do the things that make you happy. You know, you have to work, you have to pay your bills, but you are entitled to all of your own free time. So if you love animals, hop on YouTube, start looking at your favorite, some videos about your favorite animal. And if it's something you want to own one day, figure out if you need a license and get really into it. And say you love falconry, right? And you've never met anybody else in your life who can imagine themselves with a falcon in a big shed where they keep it, and a hood to put on it, and a big glove to catch your falcon, and making sure that you have frozen rats you can thaw them and the falcon
He's doing
train
like
your
a
falcon.
dance right now, folks.
Exactly.
He is animated.
Okay. and it's okay, right? Because you're an interesting person. You like falconry. No one's gonna say, "Oh God, don't talk to him. He likes falconry."
No, most people are probably gonna ask questions and be interested.
Exactly. And that's cool. Really super cool, right? And then you can feel confident. You can feel like you're an interesting person. And if you happen to ever meet a person of the opposite gender or same gender, no discrimination here, who loves falconry, one of two things is going to happen. They're not going to have a falcon yet and think that you are just insanely amazing and like one in a million and this crazy diamond in the rough, and they're just think that you're amazing. Or even crazier, you're going to meet someone else who has a freaking falcon.
And then you guys can go on falcon dates.
Exactly.
So what you're saying in essence here, you gave a very specific example, but what you're basically saying is if you follow your passions and you're true to yourself, somewhere along the way, you're going to get really good at being yourself.
Yes.
Someone is going to see you having fun and being good at being yourself, and they're going to want to be a part of that.
Exactly.
And that is a relationship, when someone wants to be a part of what you're doing.
Exactly.
And then you choose that you like what they have to offer too, and now you're doing it together.
So don't settle, because you might find someone that owns a falcon just like you.
Wait for Disneyland. That's what Justin used to say when I first met him.
Yeah.
When he was single. I would say, Justin, you're the age you are now, and you're single, and what's up? And he would always tell me, he'd say, dude, I'm just not interested until Disneyland comes around. It's like, why would I want to settle for anything less than 100% fabulous?
I mean, for what it's worth.
Trent.
Yeah, shout out. Oh, we said his name.
Oh, he's a part of the Millennial crew.
Okay.
We won't say his last name. They'll never be able to look him up.
So, yeah, as far as that is concerned, wait for Disneyland. I really, truly think so. Look, my mom used to say I'm a 10 in a room full of sixes and every 10's favorite six. I can't help it. I cannot help it. I like nines and tens.
Hey,
I'm
and you
into
should,
nines
you should
and
go
tens.
for that, right?
Yeah.
Why not be around the top notch?
I'm not into sixes. I like nines and tens.
Oh, thanks.
I like
take
nice
that as a
bodies. I like really intelligent people. I like people who have their stuff together financially. Those are all things that I really like, and I'm not really interested in having anything less than all of it.
You didn't exactly describe me there.
Well,
you were close, but
I've always dreamt of a friend like
me.
you.
Okay,
Dating you, if, quite frankly, would be my worst nightmare. But you know what? It's not going to be everyone's worst nightmare, Matthew.
There's someone out there.
But thank God we have one of the same hobbies.
Yes.
They bring us together.
We both enjoy drinking. I mean gardening. Alrighty, well, this is bringing us to the end of our podcast for today, folks. Before we digress for another 15 minutes into nowhere. Justin, thank you so much for being on today.
I enjoyed this one, actually.
I had a good time learning a little bit about your philosophies and where you draw some lines in the sand when it comes to different wordage. I enjoyed that.
Well, I did too. Thank you for having me on. As always, it was a pleasure. And I'd love to see some feedback in the comments, because I do read them.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, really?
You guys say hi to me. Say hi, Justin, in the comments. I'm very narcissistic. I'd love to see this.
And I think since he asked so nicely, if you were to comment Justin, I'd probably give him control to comment you back. So you might actually get a little message back from Justin
Oh
personally.
my gosh, I'm famous.
Woo! Well, not yet. They have to comment you first.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Yeah, you never know how famous you are truly until you ask people to do something online and see how many do it.
All right, well, make me famous, you guys.
Make them feel good, guys. All right, we will catch you tomorrow for the next episode. Also, keep an eye out. Me and Adam have vlogs coming your way here for the month of April. Check out that update video if you haven't, because it'll make a lot more sense what I just said. So, till tomorrow, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.